It is 11 to 8. Time to say good morning to the Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson. Hello.
Good morning, Ian. How are you going this morning?
Going well. It's a Friday. Yeah.
It's a Friday. That's always a good sign, isn't it?
It is somewhat.
Although we need this weather to sort itself out. We don't know what it's doing at the
Isn't it
moment.
crazy?
A few days ago it was boiling, and then obviously a bit of rain, which is nice to see a bit of
Yeah.
rain around. Very windy yesterday. Wind seems a bad thing. Obviously some bushfires around the region, not really close to us, but you see that wind or feel that wind, and you know that's going to be bad if there's anyone that's got a fire anywhere.
Well, that's why the map of New South Wales on the RFS site was covered in your fire bands earlier in the week, and now it's basically all green. I think there's one yellow fire weather district there. They're indicating obviously a higher level of alert there, but yeah, it's back to what it was for winter. And well, I guess the heat's just around the corner. Now, something else just around the corner we will mention tomorrow, the community leaders meet and greet for October.
Exactly right, and this is something that I really want people to take advantage of, and they do each time we have this event. There's nowhere else in this nation, I can't stress this enough, nowhere else in this nation do you get all three levels of government stand in an open forum side by side on a regular basis. And it's something that I talk to other mayors, other members of parliament about, and they love the idea, but trying to get all three levels happy to stand there side by side is a bit of a challenge in some locations, which I don't understand, but it's fantastic that it's not a challenge here. This has been going for a number of years, and people appreciate the fact that they can go along and talk to Mark Coulton from a federal level, Dougal Saunders from a state level, and of course myself and councillors and some of our senior council staff as well. And the greatest thing about that, Ian, is that it's very easy sometimes for a level of government to say, that's not our issue, go and see another level of government. Now, it may well be another level of government's issue, or it may be that they're just fobbing it off. But when you've got all three levels side by side, it's near impossible to say, nothing to do with me, go and see someone else. Well, I've just gone over there and talked to that level of government, and they said it's to do with you. And so that's a really positive thing, that you can actually stand side by side and say, well, this particular issue is more a state or a federal issue. Here's our state or our federal counterpart. Let's go and have a discussion. And sometimes I've done exactly that, where you walk along and say, well, okay, that really is a state issue. Let's go over and talk to our state rep, and then more or less hand over or stand side by side. So you can't be just fobbing someone off when you've got the other level of government standing right beside you. We normally get 50, 60, sometimes 80 people that come along to these, and sometimes it's just to say good day, sometimes it's a burning issue they've got to talk about, just different ideas they might want to present. So whatever reason you've got, come along. It's at the farmers markets from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, Saturday morning. Farmers markets are a great place to go regardless, and lots of great stalls in our farmers markets. But this is just an added attraction. Is attraction the right word for the three members of government?
Depends on whether you put on your best face and your nicest outfit back there. I don't know. It's interesting the fact that you could stand there and somebody talks to you. You may need to talk to Dougal about that. Well, although do you ever get it? Someone says, wants to know about the roadworks, say down there in Bly Street behind Riverdale, or there's sewers backed up. They come to you. Do you ever go, Dougal, we might need some more money here or something like that? As a bit of a joke.
Well, look, that's something that we're always happy to take money from the state and the federal government. So happy to do that. But it is interesting because roadworks is one of those really tricky ones.
Yeah.
And I do talks to schools, usually about the year 4, year 5 level, where they're studying government and I'm studying local government. So they'll either come in to council, depending how large the group is, or I'll go to the schools and talk to them. And I like to quiz them about who's responsible for different things in the community. So you talk about hospitals, you talk about schools, talk about garbage collection. And I always like to hit them with roads. And I say, who's responsible for roads? And I'll get answers that are local or state or federal. And I'll say, yes, you're all correct, because roads is one of those things where you do get money from the federal government. State government's responsible for some roads, and then local government's responsible. So it is a really tricky one.
Do you ever get any of the little kids saying either, King Charles or even the Queen's, for the late Queen, they're responsible for this? I don't know.
I did get those levels, but normally it's very confusing for them in terms of just who is your local member, who is in charge of the federal government, who's in charge of the state government. It's a pretty confusing environment for anyone, let alone kids that are just learning about this stuff.
I can understand how it's a bit confusing around here at the moment. However, speaking of meeting and greeting, there was a walkthrough of Regan Park last night. We spoke about this previously, that it was coming up. What happened there?
It's a good group that turned up. If I had to guess, I'd probably say there were probably close to 30 people there last night at Regan Park. Now, we know Regan Park has got the master plan done, and when I say Regan Park, there's really there were two master plans done. There was the south section of the Macquarie River, it's the section beside the Macquarie River, and the north section. So the south section involves Regan Park. People still refer to it as Regan Park. That's fine. And as you may well remember, there were a whole range of silly, controversial things that were being said, and conspiracy theories, and all sorts of things that were going on during that master planning process, which was a very good, open and transparent process. And people now are admitting to me that, well, actually, all those things we thought about the planning process weren't actually correct. It was a really good process, and I think we've got a really good master plan. Now, not everyone's going to agree with things that happen in a community, and that's fine. The whole idea of these walkthroughs was really to say, we've got the master plan, now we're getting just down to a little bit more detail. We're starting to do some things. And on a master plan, you might expect it to take, in this particular case, maybe 20 years to realise that full master plan. Elizabeth Park, the first master plan that was done for Elizabeth Park, where we've got our Shoyo and Japanese gardens and our sensory gardens and our adventure playground, and soon to have our Wiradjuri Cultural Tourism Centre. That first master plan was done in 1999. Here we are still finishing off parts of that now, and that's the expectation for Regan Park. This is drilling down a little bit more detail around Regan Park, around certain aspects of that. And the invitation to the community, it's the second one we've done with this, was just to come along and have a bit of a look. And the community still give you some extra feedback, and it's a fine line. The master plan's done, but as we refine certain parts of that master plan, we'll still ask for extra feedback to make sure the community's engaged, understand what's going on. And there's some people there, there's some residents around Regan Park who are very keen to see certain things happen around that area. People across the rest of Dubbo will see, I think, a really fantastic area that we developed there. So it's again just the next step. We'll keep doing that again for the next 20 years, and we'll be talking about the next stage, the next part that's being done of that whole Regan Park area.
Well, as you mentioned there, you can't just look toward to the end of the current term of council. You've got to plan, 5, 10, 15, 20 years in advance, haven't you?
Good councils that I've seen over the years I've been involved in council and are talking about 10, 20 years time as a matter of course. And you need to be doing that. You don't want to just plan your term of council. You don't want to just plan the next few years. You really want to be saying, where are we going in 5, 10, 20 years time? What's our strategy? And that's a really important part of it. And you're sometimes making decisions right now that aren't necessarily going to be seen by you, but at some stage in the future there'll be another council there that'll realise those. And I think Boundary Road is a really good example. And when I was last on council, when it was Dubbo City Council, we were putting together all the steps, all the processes for the Boundary Road extension through to Sheraton Road, and that went away and ticked away and things were happening. And then when I got back on the council this time, one of the first things we did was cut the ribbon on Boundary Road. Now, that was lovely to cut the ribbon there, but I remembered all the planning that was put in place.
Sowing the seeds all the way back then.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's what good council should be doing, looking to those future directions.
Now, Dubbo Regional Council has partnered with the Dubbo Business Chamber to hold a free Small Business Month event. That's actually coming up next Wednesday, the 11th.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's out at Lazy River. So if you're in business, and we have got an exceptional Chamber of Commerce here in Dubbo, or Dubbo Business Chamber, they've changed their name now. So they do some really good work in our community, and we try and partner with them on various activities, and this is exactly one of those things. So you can register for that and basically go along and be a part of that if you're in business in Dubbo.
That's coming up next Wednesday, the 11th. It's on from 2 p.m. through until 7:30 p.m. It is a free event. You just require registration there. Go to dubbo.com.au, events, Dubbo Region Small Business Event Month there to register. Well, how's it feel to be back? This is pretty much your first full week back in the chair for this last 12-month term, isn't it?
It's like things have never changed, and things just keep going on, and that's an important part. The mayoral election was an important part of the process. It's part of the Local Government Act. That's done and dusted now as far as I'm concerned. We just move on, work on, keep doing the best thing for council. 14 September next year is the next general election, but you don't want to focus on that. You want to focus on doing the right thing in the community.
So it's back to BAU, business as usual.
Exactly right.
Matthew Diggerson, as always, thank you for coming in. We'll catch up with you again next week here on 2DU.
Thanks, Ian.
It's now coming up to 2 minutes to 8. We have the latest in news, sport and weather.